Every zodiac sign has a weakness. For some, it is impulsiveness. For others, it is pride, indecision, or fear. But Scorpio's greatest weakness is far more difficult to recognize because it often disguises itself as one of his greatest strengths: depth. Scorpio is not built for shallow experiences. He does not skim the surface of life. He dives beneath it. He wants to understand what others overlook, uncover what others ignore, and feel what others are afraid to feel. This is what makes him magnetic. It is also what makes him vulnerable because the same intensity that allows Scorpio to form profound connections can slowly transform into something darker. Curiosity becomes fixation, attachment becomes possession, love becomes obsession. And the most dangerous part is that he rarely notices the shift while it is happening. What begins as genuine interest feels harmless enough. A fascination with someone's mind, a desire to understand them more deeply, a connection that feels impossible to ignore, but obsession never announces its arrival. It enters quietly. And once Scorpio's mind locks on to something meaningful, letting go is rarely as simple as walking away, because obsession is not just about desire, it is about significance. So, in this video, we're going deep into a Scorpio's obsession, not the stereotypes, not the myths, but the hidden process that turns Scorpio's greatest strength into his greatest weakness. And why, once that process begins, even Scorpio himself may struggle to escape it. Chapter 1: The Seed of Obsession. Every obsession begins as something deceptively small. It is rarely dramatic in the beginning. There is no sudden declaration, no overwhelming certainty, no immediate awareness that something important has begun. Instead, it starts with a feeling Scorpio cannot quite explain: a curiosity, a fascination, a sense that there is more beneath the surface than what everyone else can see. This is what separates Scorpio from many of the other signs. While most people notice what is obvious, Scorpio's attention naturally gravitates toward what remains hidden. He is less interested in appearances than in what lies behind them. The contradictions, the secrets, the emotions that reveal themselves only in brief moments before disappearing again. And when someone awakens that instinct, they immediately become significant. Not because Scorpio has fallen in love, not yet, but because they have captured his attention. And attention is where obsession begins. Most people can direct their attention elsewhere when something remains unresolved. Scorpio struggles to do that. His mind returns to mysteries repeatedly, searching for understanding. What was left unsaid? What did she really mean? What is she hiding beneath the image she presents to the world? The questions themselves become compelling. This is why Scorpio is often drawn toward complexity. The unknown exerts a powerful pull on him. Every unanswered question feels like an unfinished story, and unfinished stories have a way of lingering in his mind long after everyone else has moved on. At this stage, the attachment is still harmless. He is simply curious. Yet curiosity has a tendency to grow when it is continually fed. Every new discovery deepens his interest. Every glimpse beneath the surface convinces him there is something even deeper waiting to be uncovered. Without realizing it, he begins investing more of his attention, more of his thoughts, more of his emotional energy. And that is the moment the seed is planted. Because obsession does not begin when Scorpio loses control. It begins when he gives something the one thing he values most: his focus. Once that happens, the process has already started, and the deeper the connection becomes, the more difficult it will be to turn back. Chapter 2: The Need to Know Everything. Once Scorpio becomes emotionally invested, curiosity is no longer enough. What began as interest now becomes a need to understand. He wants to know not only who a person is, but why they are the way they are. What shaped them, what wounded them, what they fear, desire, regret, and hide from the rest of the world. This is where Scorpio differs from most people. Many are satisfied with the version of someone that is visible. Scorpio is fascinated by the version that remains concealed. He is drawn toward the locked doors, the unanswered questions, and the parts of a person that seem difficult to access. To him, every layer revealed suggests another layer beneath it, and that is where obsession begins gathering momentum. The more he learns, the more he realizes there is still more to learn. Every answer creates another question. Every mystery solved uncovers a deeper mystery waiting underneath. What makes this so powerful is that Scorpio experiences understanding as a form of intimacy. The closer he feels to someone's inner world, the stronger the emotional bond becomes. Knowledge is not simply information to him, it is connection, it is proof that he has reached a place few others have been allowed to see. But no person can ever be completely understood. There will always be contradictions, hidden motivations, thoughts left unspoken, parts of the psyche that remain inaccessible no matter how closely we look. For most people, this uncertainty is accepted. For Scorpio, it can become irresistible. His mind continues searching for the final piece of the puzzle, the missing insight that will suddenly make everything clear, the hidden truth that explains the connection in its entirety, yet that moment never arrives. Because people are not puzzles, they are mysteries, and mysteries are endless. The more Scorpio chases complete understanding, the more deeply he becomes entangled in the pursuit itself. What began as a desire to know someone gradually becomes a fixation on uncovering what can never be fully uncovered. And without realizing it, his attention starts shifting. He is no longer simply interested in the person, he is becoming captivated by what they mean. And that is where obsession begins to take on a life of its own. Chapter 3: When She Becomes Different. The deeper Scorpio goes, the more significant the person becomes. What started as curiosity gradually transforms into something else. He begins noticing details that others overlook. Certain conversations linger in his memory. Certain moments seem to carry unusual weight. Small interactions begin feeling larger than they should. And without realizing it, he starts assigning meaning. This is the moment obsession takes a critical turn because the person is no longer being evaluated objectively, they are being elevated. Scorpio begins viewing them through the lens of significance. They are not simply another connection, they are different, more intriguing, more impactful, more important than the people who came before. The connection starts feeling rare, and rarity creates value. The harder someone is to understand, the more fascinating they become. The more emotionally affected Scorpio feels, the more convinced he becomes that there must be a reason for it. Surely this level of attraction means something. Surely this connection is different from all the others. This is how meaning begins attaching itself to the person, not because they asked for it, not because they earned it, but because Scorpio's mind is trying to explain the intensity of what he feels. After all, if someone occupies this much space in his thoughts, they must be extraordinary. At least that is what the mind begins to believe. The danger is that significance has a way of growing over time. The more attention Scorpio gives someone, the more important they seem. And the more important they seem, the more attention he gives them in return. A cycle begins forming, one that feeds itself, one that slowly transforms a person into a symbol of something larger than themselves. And once that happens, Scorpio is no longer relating only to who they are, he is relating to what they represent. That is the moment the obsession starts becoming more powerful than reality itself. Chapter 4: The Fantasy He Creates. Once a person becomes a symbol, reality begins competing with imagination. This is not because Scorpio is delusional. In fact, he is often remarkably perceptive. He notices details others miss and senses emotional undercurrents that many people overlook. But obsession changes the way attention works. The mind naturally magnifies whatever it focuses on. The more Scorpio thinks about someone, the more space they occupy within his inner world. And when that happens, imagination begins filling the gaps between what he knows and what he wishes to understand. This process is subtle. A meaningful conversation becomes proof of a deeper connection. A coincidence begins to feel significant. A passing moment acquires greater importance each time it is replayed in memory. Over time, the story becomes richer, not necessarily less true, just larger than reality. This is why obsession can be so difficult to recognize while it is happening. Scorpio believes he is getting closer to the truth. In many ways, he is. But he is also creating a narrative around the connection, one shaped not only by what exists, but by what he feels. And feelings are powerful storytellers. They highlight certain moments while ignoring others. They amplify what supports the story and diminish what contradicts it. Gradually, the person in Scorpio's mind becomes infused with layers of meaning that extend far beyond who they actually are. This is the paradox of obsession. She is no longer simply a woman, she becomes a possibility, a mystery, a turning point, a symbol of something his soul believes it needs to find, and that is why obsession grows so powerful. Because at a certain point, Scorpio is no longer chasing a person. He is chasing the meaning he has attached to them. And meaning is far more difficult to let go of than reality. Which brings us to the deepest layer of all. The reason Scorpio keeps returning to certain people, memories, and connections long after logic tells him he should have moved on. It is not always the person he is searching for. Sometimes it is the feeling they awakened within him. Chapter 5: The Search for Hidden Meaning. By this point, the obsession is no longer driven by curiosity alone. Something deeper has taken hold. Scorpio is a sign that rarely believes powerful experiences are random. When a person affects him deeply, his instinct is to search for the meaning behind it. Why did this connection feel different? Why did this person leave such a lasting impression? Why does the experience continue echoing inside him long after it should have faded? These questions become difficult to ignore because Scorpio does not simply experience life, he interprets it. He is constantly searching beneath the surface of events, looking for patterns, lessons, and hidden truths. What others dismiss as coincidence, Scorpio often experiences as significant. This is especially true when emotions are involved. The stronger the connection feels, the more convinced he becomes that it must contain a deeper purpose. Surely there is a reason this person entered his life. Surely there is a lesson hidden within the experience. Surely all of this intensity is pointing towards something important. And so the search begins. At first, it feels productive. He reflects on conversations. He revisits memories. He examines the connection from different angles, hoping to uncover the insight that explains everything, but meaning is a difficult thing to capture. The more he searches, the more elusive it becomes. Every answer seems incomplete. Every realization leads to another question. The experience begins unfolding like a maze, revealing new paths each time he believes he has reached center. This is why Scorpio can remain mentally attached to certain people for so long. He's not always searching for them. Sometimes he is searching for what they meant. The person becomes intertwined with a mystery that feels larger than the relationship itself. They become a symbol of a question he has not yet answered, a lesson he has not yet fully understood, or a part of himself he has not yet completely explored. And because the meaning feels unfinished, the connection feels unfinished too. This is the hidden fuel behind many of Scorpio's obsessions, the belief that there is still something left to discover, something left to understand. But the longer he searches, the more he risks becoming trapped inside the search itself. Because eventually the pursuit of meaning can become just as consuming as the person who inspired it. And once that happens, the mind enters a loop that becomes increasingly difficult to escape, a loop of questions, memories, and endless reflection. A loop that explains why Scorpio cannot stop thinking about her. Chapter 6: Why Scorpio Cannot Stop Thinking About Her. Most people assume that thoughts are something we choose, but the mind does not work that way. The experiences that affect us most deeply often return on their own, appearing without invitation and demanding our attention. A song, a scent, a familiar place, suddenly a memory resurfaces carrying the same emotional weight it had years before. For Scorpio, this process is amplified. His mind is naturally drawn toward depth. When something captures his attention, he rarely accepts the surface explanation. He examines it from every angle, searching for the hidden motives, emotions, and meanings beneath it. This tendency serves him well in many areas of life. It makes him perceptive, insightful, exceptionally skilled at understanding what others overlook. But when obsession enters the picture, the same gift becomes a trap. Instead of finding an answer and moving forward, his mind continues circling the same subject. Each thought leads to another. Each memory unlocks a new interpretation. Every conclusion gives birth to a fresh question. The cycle feeds itself. What makes this so powerful is that Scorpio often mistakes thinking for progress. He believes that if he reflects long enough, analyzes deeply enough, or uncovers one final piece of understanding, he will finally reach peace. Yet peace never arrives because the mind was never searching for an answer, it was searching for certainty. And certainty is rarely available when emotions are involved. Another person's heart can never be completely explained. A connection can never be reduced to a perfect formula. There will always be unanswered questions, missing pieces, and mysteries that remain unresolved. For most people, this uncertainty is frustrating. For Scorpio, it is irresistible. The unknown keeps pulling him back. The unanswered question keeps reopening the door. The mystery keeps demanding another look. And before he realizes it, the person has become woven into his mental landscape, not because she is constantly present in his life, but because she is constantly present in his thoughts. This is the hidden power of obsession. It transforms attention into attachment. The more Scorpio thinks about someone, the more emotionally significant they become. And the more significant they become, the more difficult it is to stop thinking about them. The cycle appears endless until one day he is forced to confront a question far more important than any question about her. Is this still love, or has it become something else entirely? Chapter 7: The Difference Between Love and Obsession. At first glance, love and obsession can look remarkably similar, Both consume attention, both create longing, both inspire a person to think constantly about someone who matters to them. From the outside, it can be difficult to tell where one ends and the other begins, but there is a crucial difference. Love seeks connection, obsession seeks resolution. When Scorpio is in love, he wants to understand the other person, support their growth, and share in their experiences. His attention flows outward. Even in its intensity, love remains rooted in reality of who that person truly is. Obsession moves in the opposite direction. Instead of focusing on the other person, it focuses on the emotional need they have awakened and the unanswered question, the unfinished story, the feeling that something remains unresolved. Without realizing it, Scorpio can become attached not only to the person, but to the pursuit itself. The search for meaning becomes its own destination. This is why obsession often survives long after love has faded. Love adapts to reality. It accepts change. It learns to coexist with uncertainty. Obsession resists reality. It clings to what was. It replays old memories. It revisits familiar questions, hoping that one more examination will finally provide the answer that has been missing all along. Yet the answer obsession seeks rarely exists. There's no single explanation that can erase longing, no perfect insight that suddenly makes every emotion disappear, no hidden truth that transforms confusion into complete certainty. The mind keeps searching because it believes closure is waiting somewhere ahead. But closure is not something that is found, it is something that is chosen. This is the lesson Scorpio eventually encounters at the end of every obsession. The mystery cannot always be solved, the questions cannot always be answered, and the person who once occupied every corner of his thoughts cannot always remain there forever. Sooner or later, he must decide whether he wants to keep chasing understanding or begin accepting uncertainty. Because the moment he stops trying to solve the obsession is the moment its power begins to fade. And that is where the final transformation begins. Not in finding the answer, but in finally releasing the need for one. Closing, the mark that never fades. Perhaps the greatest misconception about Scorpio's obsession is the belief that it is always about another person. It isn't. The person may ignite it, they may become the face of it, they may occupy his thoughts for months, years, or even decades. But beneath the fixation lies something far deeper: Scorpio's relationship with emotional intensity itself. He is a sign that experiences life through depth. Where others pass through moments, Scorpio enters them. Where others remember events, Scorpio remembers transformations. Every profound connection leaves a mark, and some marks never completely disappear. This is why certain people remain with him long after they are gone. Not because he is incapable of moving forward, not because he spends every waking moment trapped in the past, but because some experiences become part of the architecture of who he is. The woman who awakens something within him may eventually become a memory. The questions may lose their urgency. The longing may soften, yet the imprint remains. Like ink beneath the skin, it becomes woven into his story. And perhaps that is the true nature of Scorpio's obsession. It is not the inability to let go, it is the inability to experience something deeply and remain unchanged by it. Once he has been consumed by curiosity, longing, mystery, or passion, a part of that experience continues to live within him, because Scorpio is ruled by transformation, and transformation always leaves evidence behind. In the end, the obsession was never just about her. It was about the version of himself she awakened, The hidden emotions she uncovered, the depths she forced him to confront. She may have entered his life as a person, but she remained as a symbol, a reminder of what happens when Scorpio feels too much, sees too deeply, and touches something he cannot forget. And that is why, of all the signs, Scorpio understands a truth that few others ever fully grasp. Some people leave your life, but they never leave your soul.